Hi, my name's Jonathan Hicks. I'm back at the Nice Cup, and this evening I'm joined by
Mark.
And we just finished playing Victoriana, which is a co-op game set in Victorian England, and it's full of kind of fictional characters. So you've got sort of Sherlock Holmes. I think it's meant to be Wilhelmina Harker. So an Invisible Man. I was Invisible Man. So each player takes a character, and you are running around London on this board here. So this was my little standee, and you're trying to stop some mastermind from accomplishing a villainous plot. So there's a bunch of these henchmen. We've kind of worked through a couple, but once you've got through enough henchmen, you're sort of trying to reveal the mastermind. So part of the objective of the game is to figure out who it is who's accomplishing this plot. We have a big plot deck here. We're trying to get through a bunch of plots to find the real plot. These are all sort of misleading you, if you like, but eventually the final plot in the deck will be the true plot that he's trying to accomplish. So in our case, although we haven't revealed it yet, the crown jewels have been stolen, so that's what he's trying to do, whoever he is. And also he's trying to do it in a certain location. At the start of the game, all the locations are covered in these little question marks, and as you go through the game you kind of reveal them, and most of them are blank like this, but somewhere on here is an X. An X marks the spot where the actual crime, if you like, is being committed. So we're trying to do those three things. If we manage to succeed before the time runs out, each time we take a couple of turns, this little marker moves around another quarter of an hour. When it gets to the top, you remove one of the clocks, and if you kind of remove the clocks until it gets past midnight, I think. Once it goes past midnight, the game ends. So you have to accomplish those three things before the time runs out. Now, the way you play the game is on your turn, you can move up to 3 spaces. So what you're trying to do is get to the lead. So once you've moved 3 spaces, you can either investigate a lead or use a locale ability. So a lot of these places have abilities. So like here, if you go here, you can teleport to anywhere. This one lets you heal all your trauma. You have a little trauma track. This sort of tracks your health, if you like. As bad things happen, you take more trauma. If it goes off the end, you die, and that's bad. So you could heal all your trauma there. So there's a bunch of different abilities on here. But ultimately, you're trying to get to these spots with the numbers, because those are where the leads are. You're trying to investigate these leads. So this one, for instance, here, number 1, would correspond to number 1, this lead here. Now, each turn, after we each had a couple of turns, all the leads kind of rotate clockwise. So this lead is sort of pointing at 6 o'clock, and after we've all had a turn, it rotates. So now it's pointing at 9 o'clock. Now, if this gets back up to the top, because when they come in, potentially they could start at 12, it goes away and the lead goes cold, and we lose the opportunity to investigate it. That's bad because the cold lead track goes up, which means we suffer a trauma, and if it ever gets up to 8, we lose the game. So you got to get to these before they go cold. So on my turn, I could move 3 and go to here, okay, and look at number 1, because number 1 is at like 9 o'clock. It's getting close to going cold, so I want to research this or investigate this lead before it goes cold. So you go there. Incidentally, these little tokens on the top indicate the likelihood of it being one type or another. There's 4 types of leads. You've got purple occult, green politics, blue science, and red underworld. So this one, you look at it, and yes, it's a blue one. Now, when you investigate these leads, you've got 2 options. Well, sometimes more than 2, but you're picking one of the rows. So you hand in resources. This is a stack of resources. These are the ones I've collected throughout the game. You can collect resources from certain locations. So, for example, if you go here, you get 2 blue resources. Here, you get 2 purple resources. So you can pick up resources from the location abilities, and then you're trying to cash them in to accomplish these leads. So I could cash in a purple and a red to get 1 deduction, as it's called, the magnifying glass, or 2 blues and a green to get 2 deductions. Now, what are these deductions for? Well, you know, I said we were trying to figure out what the plot is. Each deduction that I get allows me to flip over one of the cards. So if I were to get 2 deductions from this card, I could flip over 2 of these things. 1, 2, and it doesn't really matter too much what it says on there, but you can see we're trying to burn through to get to the true plot at the bottom. Of the cards you turned over, though, because these were purple ones, I get to advance on these plot tracks, which are quite nice. So it was a purple, so we could advance on a plot track. And when you get to certain spaces, you get stuff. So this would give us all a bit of like a resource. We each get a purple resource. There are certain special abilities. When you get to this one, for example, everyone can heal all their trauma. This one means you can take 1 less trauma on your turn. So there's a bunch of kind of special abilities you can unlock by going up on the plot tracks. And that's another reason why you might do the deductions. Alternatively, instead of doing the deductions, you can just take this as evidence. So it goes into your board like this. What do you need evidence for? Well, that's for the henchman. So when a particular henchman is revealed, they require certain kinds of evidence. This requires 3 blue evidence. So that's quite nice. That would give me 1. Once you've got enough, you defeat the henchman and you reveal the next henchman. Typically they do bad things when they show up. When revealed, each investigator on a red locale. So the locations actually have different colours, so this will be a red locale. Has to discard an ability token. Typically, this the characters, have got some special abilities here. So for example, I've got 3 of these ability tokens, and I could ignore all trauma I take on a turn. Or I could use 1 piece of evidence, these things, and make it any colour I like. So when this guy shows up, it means I'm going to have to lose one of these. Effectively, when you've run out of these ability tokens, you can no longer use his abilities. You spend one each time you use one. So he does a bad thing, and now we would need to collect green, blue, and red evidence. Then we'd clear through him, and we reveal the final mastermind. In this one, it turns out to be Usakari the Usurper, a resurrected pharaoh. So he does bad stuff when he shows up. But ultimately, once you revealed the plot and the bad guy and where it is, now we actually failed our game. I think we did hunt around. Where's the cross here in the end? There you go. So X marks the Millbank prison was where he was trying to accomplish his deed. So at the end of the game, we have to collect 3 red and 2 green resources, because that's the plot. 2 purple, 2 blue, and another red, because that's the mastermind. And because the location was red, we also need 4 red ones. So you're kind of collecting all those resources by the end of the game, cash them all in. We kind of have to congregate on this location, hand them all in. And if we manage to do that, we win, as I say, before the time runs out, or before we have too many cold leads, and we lose that way. And that's pretty much it. What do we think?
For me, as far as yours goes, this was a mix of good and bad. The good, I liked the times ticking down as leads, because that made sense. A lead appears, you know where the location is in London, you need to get there soon, and over time they're going to disappear. That's bad because you're losing a lead. It's very cooperative. There was a lot of discussion about what to do. Obviously that does lead, I think, in this that people could take control, but generally as we played it, neither has taken control, so a lot to talk about. And there was a lot of variation in this game between the different various cards, the henchmen, the bad, actually what you're trying to do. So it's adding a lot of different tokens, and it can all play out to some extent differently. The negatives, I'm not sure how much difference that will make, because ultimately you're trying to just collect a set of tokens. They're just going to be different tokens. Because of the scale of variation, I suspect you're going to have games that are easier and the games are harder based purely on what cards come out. I don't know what level of scaling of difficulty this game, Jonathan can maybe explain that better. Based on it though, a card could be completely unaffected, or could be really bad for us, just entirely dependent on where we were or how the game had worked out for us. I did feel at little times it was a little mechanical. It's not a pandemic level, like, I wouldn't say Pandemic's a brand new gamer's level of game. I think if you have somebody who knows what they're doing, they can generally cover the worst, like smooth over the worst bits, the more tricky bits, and kind of actually handle that themselves. In this, there was a lot of I need to do that, and then I need to do that, and then I need to do that, and a few bits. There's things like the way it works out, where the new leads go. So what the possible leads are based on the combination of what you spent, where you are, and the card type. And it's sort of like someone getting that card and that based on that, and then following the path through your card. It's not too bad, but it does mean it's a little bit trickier than even like a pandemic level for new gamers. I think even with Jonathan, I play a lot of games. There was a lot of times I was like, so I need to do that. Oh, I can also do that. Oh, I can do that. So there is the importance from the card. But all in all, it was good. I guess my biggest issue is it probably doesn't. For me, it's not good enough to rear its head above a good, cooperative game. It's definitely quite your as that, and I'm not sure, other than maybe the time track ticking down, that it made me feel like I was doing what I was doing. I was just kind of going locations, spend some tokens at times. But it's still good, and I think if you like the Victorian theme, and certainly like the stories that a lot of these characters are based on, I think you'll enjoy it.
Rating?
For me, it was a 6.5.
Okay. Yeah, I'd agree with a lot of what Mark said. My feelings would be a bit mixed as well. I think it's a decent co-op. It's very fiddly, so setup takes quite a long time, it's super fiddly, and you really need somebody who knows what they're doing. When you investigate one of those leads and it goes away, you have to generate a new lead, and figuring out how in the world that works is remarkably complicated. You're taking a card from here and 2 cards for this and another card for that, and you shuffle them together and you pick one out, and it's... I played this a few times now, so I can do it smoothly enough. But the first couple of times you play, you're going to find it very fiddly. Also, for that reason, the game tends to last quite a long time. I feel like it lasts a bit longer than it should, really. It does get faster with repeated plays, but just bear that in mind. I really like the theme of the game. The kind of fictional Victorian characters is great. My only slight issue with that is it's a little bit pasted on in places. So, for example, when you're doing the evidence things, this one here, in theory, you found a bloody lantern, and you're picking one of the things. You can examine the blood spatter or illuminate the battered body, but really, you're just handing in some coloured tokens and then getting stuff which that you flip over the plot or whatever it is. So they tried to put theme on it, but it doesn't really feel very thematic in that sense. The characters are great though, and they're roaming around the board. There are some agents, like other bad guys, who can show up and hassle you, and that's quite nice. I like exploring around the board trying to reveal all the tokens, although we seem to reveal almost all the tokens and we still couldn't find where it was. I've never managed to win this game, despite, as I say, playing it for a few times. I've come very close on at least one occasion. So it's hard, that's the other thing you want to bear in mind, and it can feel a little bit random. Sometimes you can lose because you're just unlucky. Like with the best planning and will in the world, you still just seem to come a cropper because of a bad card draw or something like that. I don't know how much that's going to improve as you get better at the game. Like, I feel like we made good decisions throughout most of it, and yet in this game we never really stood a chance for various reasons. The cold leads just kept kind of racking up. But that's what it is. So overall, as I say, I think it's decent, but a few issues, a little bit fiddly. Bear that in mind. All right, I would give it a 6 out of 10, I think. Thanks for watching. That was
Victoriana.